London, 1965. A studio lot humming with activity, cameras rolling, crew rushing, money being made. In the corner of a hallway, a young man in gray overalls pushes a mop across the floor. 18 years old, thin, eyes down, invisible, until he isn't. A studio executive, expensive suit, fat cigar, the kind of man who never opens his own doors, walks down that hallway and stops. He looks at the janitor, then he looks at the floor, then back at the janitor. "You missed a spot," the executive says. "Get on your knees and clean it properly." The young man looks up, jaw tight, pride still alive in his chest, barely. "I'll mop it again," he says, "but I won't get on my knees for anyone." 4 words from the executive end his career before it started. "You're fired. Get out." The young man picks up his bucket, walks toward the exit, head up, hands shaking, future gone. But someone is watching, someone who mopped floors himself once, delivered milk in the freezing Edinburgh dark, polished coffins just to feed his family, someone who knows exactly what it costs a man to keep his spine straight when the world tells him to bend, Sean Connery, and what he does next, in the next 60 seconds, nobody on that studio lot ever forgets. But to understand what Connery does in that hallway, you have to go back, way back, to a place that has no studio lots, no cameras, no cigar-smoking executives. Edinburgh, Scotland, 1930. Fountain Bridge, one of the roughest neighborhoods in one of the roughest cities in Britain. Cobblestone streets slick with rain, tenement blocks packed with families who share walls and share poverty. No central heating, no excess, no margin for error. Thomas Sean Connery is born here on August 25, 1930, to a factory worker father and a cleaning woman mother. The family lives in 2 rooms. 2 rooms for everything: sleeping, eating, surviving. He is 6 years old when he starts understanding what money means. Or rather, what the absence of it means. At 13, school is over. Not by choice, by necessity. The family needs income. Every shilling counts. So young Tommy Connery steps into the Edinburgh streets before dawn and starts delivering milk. 6 days a week. Rain, frost, wind, doesn't matter. The bottles are heavy. The routes are long. The pay is almost nothing. But he shows up. Every single time. At 16 he adds another job. A funeral parlor, polishing coffins, running his cloth along wood that will be buried in the ground. He never talks about what that feels like, working with death as a teenager. But those who know him say it teaches him something. Something about dignity. Something about the fact that every man, no matter how powerful or how poor, ends up the same way. He never forgets that. At 17, he joins the Royal Navy, tries to find something bigger than Edinburgh, something with a future, but his body betrays him. Stomach ulcers force a medical discharge after 3 years. He comes back to Fountain Bridge with nothing but a tattoo on his arm that reads, "Mum and Dad," and another that reads, "Scotland Forever." 2 tattoos, no career, no plan. He is 19 years old, and his prospects are as thin as the Edinburgh frost. Here's where it gets interesting, because Sean Connery doesn't sit down, doesn't ask for sympathy, doesn't wait for someone to hand him a ladder. He picks up a barbell. Bodybuilding, obsessive, disciplined, daily bodybuilding. He trains in a small gym near Fountain Bridge with the same intensity he delivered milk. No excuses, no missed sessions. His body transforms. The milk-round shoulders become something sculptural. In 1953, he enters the Mr. Universe competition in London. He comes 3rd in the tall man's category. But something happens at that competition that changes his life. A man named Robert Henderson notices him, not his muscles, his movement. "You move like a panther," Henderson tells him backstage. "Have you ever considered the stage?" Connery laughs, a thick Scottish accent. No training, no money for drama school. The stage? He's a milkman with biceps. But Henderson is serious. He gives Connery books, Shakespeare, Ibsen, Chekhov. He tells him to read everything, to study the way men speak when the words carry weight. Connery reads, every night, hunched over paperbacks in that tiny Fountain Bridge flat, mouthing words written 400 years ago, trying to find something in them that connects to the streets outside his window. And slowly, painfully, awkwardly, with zero guarantee of success, he finds it. Small roles, regional theater, nothing glamorous, but he is learning, and more importantly, he is watching how men in power behave, watching how actors without power get treated, taking notes he never writes down but never forgets. By 1961, he is in London. Cheap suit, thick accent, zero industry connections, and two men named Albert Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman are looking for someone to play a fictional British spy named James Bond. The producers have a list, a long list, established names, polished men, men with the right schools on their CV and the right clubs on their membership cards. Sean Connery is not on the list, but someone pushes for him anyway. Just get him in the room. Connery walks into the Eon Productions office and the room shifts. Not because of his suit, that's cheap. Not because of his resume, that's thin, but because of the way he moves. The producers ask him to do a screen test. Connery says no. Just like that. No hesitation, no apology, no nervousness. A man with almost no credits, auditioning for the biggest franchise in British film history, and he says no to a screen test. I don't do screen tests. The producers look at each other. This is not how auditions work, but Connery doesn't explain. He talks about Bond, about the character, about what the role requires, specific, intelligent, prepared. Then he stands up, buttons his jacket, and walks out. The producers go to the window. They watch him walk across the street below. That walk, that stride. Unhurried, unashamed. The walk of a man who knows exactly who he is, regardless of whether anyone else does. Cubby Broccoli turns to Saltzman. That's him. Ian Fleming, the author who created Bond, initially disagrees. He calls Connery an overdeveloped stuntman. Too rough. Too Scottish. Not what he imagined. Then Dr. No comes out in 1962, and the world disagrees with Fleming. Now we go back. London, 1965. The studio lot. The hallway. The janitor with the bucket walking toward the exit. At this point, Sean Connery is 3 Bond films deep. Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger. He is arguably the most recognized face on the planet. He doesn't need to be on this studio lot today. He is here for a meeting, something quick. He is walking through that hallway when he sees it. The executive, the janitor, the mop, the aftermath. He watches the young man get fired. He watches the executive turn and walk away, already forgetting, already thinking about his next lunch, his next opportunity to make someone smaller than him feel it. And then Connery moves, not fast, not dramatically. He walks, that panther walk, directly toward the young man who is still standing there, bucket in hand, processing what just happened to him. "What's your name?" Connery asks. The young man blinks. He recognizes him immediately. Everyone does. But Connery is asking like it's a normal question, like they're 2 men on equal footing. "James," the boy says. "James Moran." "How long have you worked here, James?" 8 months. Connery nods. Then he does something nobody expects. He picks up the mop. He walks to the spot the executive pointed at and mops it himself. Slowly, deliberately. And while he mops, he talks to the boy. "I delivered milk," Connery says. "For 4 years, before dawn, I polished coffins. I cleaned things. There is no shame in work." He sets the mop down, looks at the boy directly. "But there is shame in making a man kneel when kneeling isn't required. That man who fired you, remember his face, not because he hurt you, but because you'll meet him again, in different suits, in different offices, your whole life, and you need to know who he is the moment he walks in the room." James Moran stares at him. Connery reaches into his jacket pocket, takes out a card, writes a name and a number on the back. "Call this man tomorrow morning. Tell him I sent you. He runs a production company. He needs reliable people who show up and do the work without drama." He hands the card over. James looks at it, then back at Connery. "Why are you doing this?" Connery picks up his jacket and walks toward the exit. "Because someone should have done it for me," he says without turning around. He is gone before James can say another word. The story spreads, not through the trades, not through press releases, through the crew, through the people who were in that hallway, or heard it from someone who was. The kind of story that passes person to person because it doesn't have a publicist behind it. The executive who fired the boy hears it too. He never comments publicly, But people who know him say something changes in the way he walks through hallways after that. Something quieter, more careful, the way men walk when they suddenly understand they are being watched. James Moran calls the number the next morning. He gets the job. He spends the next 31 years in the film industry, not as a star, as a production coordinator, then a line producer, then a producer, the invisible engine, the person who makes things work. He never forgets where it started. In an interview decades later, he says this: "What Connery gave me wasn't a job. He gave me proof that dignity is worth more than the job. He burned a bridge with a powerful executive on behalf of a janitor he had never met. He chose the janitor. A man at the peak of his fame chose the janitor." But wait, here's the thing about Sean Connery that Hollywood never fully understood. He always chose the janitor because he always remembered being the janitor. By 1967, Connery is done with Bond. He walks away from the most profitable film franchise in history. The studio offers him numbers that would make a man from Fountain Bridge weep. He says no, because the money was never the point. Control was the point. Respect was the point. The studios call him difficult, ungrateful, self-destructive. He goes to Spain, makes films on his own terms, takes roles that interest him, not roles that pay the most, refuses to be owned. For a period in the 1,970 seconds, his career stumbles. Hollywood whispers that he's finished, too old, too stubborn, too Scottish. And then, like the man himself, he simply keeps going. The Name of the Rose, Highlander, The Untouchables, 1988, the Academy Awards. Sean Connery, age 57, wins Best Supporting Actor for The Untouchables. The man who was called too rough for Bond. The man dismissed as an overdeveloped stuntman. The milkman, the coffin polisher. Standing on that stage with an Oscar in his hand. He doesn't cry, he doesn't gush. He thanks the people who hired him and sits back down. Classic Connery. In 1999, People magazine names him the sexiest man of the century. He is 69 years old. The man who polished coffins at 16. The sexiest human being of 100 years. Sean Connery died on October 31, 2020, in Nassau, the Bahamas. In his sleep, at age 90, surrounded by his family. The tributes came from everywhere. Presidents, prime ministers, every living Bond actor. The machinery of an entire industry pausing to acknowledge that something irreplaceable had left the room, but the tributes that meant the most were not from the powerful. They were from the crew members, the stagehands, the drivers, the set builders, the wardrobe assistants, the people who make films happen without ever appearing in them, person after person sharing a version of the same story. Sean Connery saw me. Sean Connery treated me like I mattered. Sean Connery remembered that the person doing the invisible work is not invisible. He made 6 James Bond films. They have grossed, adjusted for inflation, over $4 billion. Every actor who has played Bond since has studied the template he set. Not just how to hold a gun or wear a tuxedo, but how to inhabit a room with a quality that cannot be manufactured. He was named the greatest living Scotsman by his countrymen. He never lost the accent. He never changed the tattoos. He never forgot the milk rounds. There is a photograph of him from 1963, black and white, taken on the set of From Russia with Love. He is leaning against a wall, jacket off, sleeves rolled to the elbow, the Fountain Bridge tattoos visible on his forearms. He is looking directly at the camera with an expression that is not quite a smile and not quite a challenge. Something in between. Something that says, I know exactly who I am, and I have made my peace with it. He is 33 years old in that photograph. He looks like a man who has already decided. Class is permanent. Grit is forever. If this story moved you, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that where you start has nothing to do with where you finish, and that the truest measure of a man is not how he treats the powerful, but how he treats the person pushing the mop. Drop a comment below. What's the one lesson from Connery's life that hits hardest for you? Like, subscribe, hit the bell, and pass it on.